Hi, and welcome to Tales from the Save File. Happy first episode. I'm so excited to get into things here and see where this takes us. I'm super duper excited. I have gone over a full gameplay of what we will be discussing today, which is Shadow of the Colossus, and I'm super excited. I wrote what I thought was going to be notes and they turned into kind of a script. I don't know. I'm gonna read it and then also kind of go off of it and say my own thing. I don't really know how I want to structure the podcast yet. So it'll be kind of a trial. The first episode will be a trial, I guess, and we'll see how it goes. The reason I ended up writing such a script for this is because it's very story heavy and there's a lot of important details that I wanted to share when we get cutscenes. So that's why I ended up writing so much. But yeah, so we'll just get into it. I want to do some information about the game first. Of course, we're talking about Shadow of the Colossus, which was originally released in 2005 for the PlayStation 2, and there was a remake released in 2018 for the PlayStation 4, developed by the wonderful and amazing Team Ico and published by Sony. I personally played the remake on stream, I think in 2021, so it was even many years after the original release of the remake, but it was on my list very high because I am a The Last Guardian stan, and that is my favorite game of all time. So I knew I had to play Shadow of the Colossus as well and just get into that story because I loved The Last Guardian so much. And yeah, it was an amazing playthrough. I will share more of my thoughts at the end after the summary, so I don't do anything spoilery. But yeah, you can play on any platform, PlayStation platform. So PlayStation 2, 3, 4, or 5. I played mine on the PlayStation 5. It ran perfectly, so no issues there. And yeah, let's get into the summary. So we open up with a shot of the full moon. We see a falcon swooping down and flying around some mountainsides past our protagonist, Wander. He's riding his beloved horse, Egro, along the mountainside and also seems to be carrying something in front of him. We walk through a forest, another glimpse at the moon. There's a beautiful score here at the beginning that swells. Our adventurers are on their way. They come up to the entrance of some ruins as the sun is now shining in the distance, and they come to a really long bridge and an expansive desert. We see Wander, Egro, and the passenger start to cross the bridge as the camera pans out, up, and then slowly fades to white, and we get the title drop, Shadow of the Colossus. When we come back, we are met with a camera view following the falcon once again. It goes past the shut entrance to what is seemingly a temple as our protagonist approaches, and once close enough, the stone door rises and allows them to enter. Egro protests gently, but Wander cues him to enter, and the door promptly closes behind them after they enter. We are then met with a long spiral staircase with a small structured pond at the bottom. Egro seems to protest again when getting close to it, and this will be important later, so keep that in the back of your head. The trio enter a hall lined with stone statues of creatures, 8 on each side. Wander eyes them as they go past. At the end of the hall is what looks like an altar. Wander gets off his horse and pulls the extra body from the saddle to carry up the steps and to the stone pillar. Once the body is placed, he tears the blanket that was wrapped around it away, and now we can see that it seems to be a young woman, dressed in a white robe. Wander looks at her sadly. We then get a scene of a mask, with smoke and sparks behind it, and the subtitles read, and the language here is made up. Team Ico and Ueda himself has said that it's basically gibberish, and we shouldn't try to really understand it, so there's that. That place began from the resonance of intersecting points. They are memories replaced by ends and not and etched into stone. Blood, young sprouts, sky, and the one with the ability to control beings created from the light. In that world, it is said that if one should wish it, one can bring back the souls of the dead. but to trespass upon that land is strictly forbidden. We pan back to the girl, who we now understand has passed. Her name is Mono, by the way. Neither her or Wander's name is ever mentioned in the game, but the developers have told us this. And as a side note, ends in that monologue in philosophy means an entity or being, an existing thing, as opposed to a quality or attribute. So they're speaking of whatever it is that is in this place that is strictly forbidden in this land. They're referring to it as entities or beings. The mask also mentioned being created from light, and there has been a lot of symbolism of light so far. The moon, the sun, and there's a pillar of light leaking into this temple that points towards the pool of water and also the altar. So there have been a lot of things that are illuminated by light and a lot of camera panning that is focusing on things of light. So that's a really interesting point as well. We slowly pan away from the girl to see the back of Wander and eventually the horse Egro standing back and watching. And we pan even further back to see these shadowy figures start to rise up from the ground. Egro alerts Wander of the unexpected company, and he draws his sword. As he holds it up, we see that there is some sort of windy magic that is surrounding the sword, indicating to us that this is not a normal weapon. The shadows start to stand, but then vanish almost as soon as they appeared, and the camera pans up to the ceiling where there is a hole letting in the sunlight, the one that is facing the altar. Or shining down on the altar, I should say. But then we see in the sky that it's cloudy and a storm is brewing. So really interesting that we're seeing a very bright, significant light, like it's super sunny outside, coming in this hole that we can't see out of because the light's really bright. But then we see outside that it's actually cloudy and there's no real, shining sun. It's thundering above, yet the light still shines through the opening. A voice from beyond speaks in the same indistinct language, saying, "Thou possess the ancient sword, so thou art mortal." Wander replies and asks, "Are you Dorman?" So here we are getting a name for the entity. He continues, "I was told that in this place at the ends of the world, there exists a being who can control the souls of the dead." Dorman responds, "Thou art correct. We are the one known as Dorman." We being a very interesting thing to say. And a cool little side fact, the voice of Dorman is both male and female voices kind of being mixed together to give it a very echoey effect. It's a very interesting voice. I really, really like it. Wander explains that Mono was sacrificed because she had a cursed fate and begs Dorman to bring back her soul from the dead. Dorman laughs and says, "Thy maiden's soul? Souls that are once lost cannot be reclaimed. Is that not the law of mortals?" Wander looks defeated. With that sword, however, it may not be impossible. Wander seems surprised by this, but obviously joyful. "That is, of course, if thou manage to accomplish what we asketh." Wander asks what it is he has to do, seemingly willing to do anything to bring Mono back to life. "Behold the idols that stand along the wall. Thou art to destroy all of them, but those idols cannot be destroyed by the mere hands of a mortal. In this land there exist colossi that are the incarnations of those idols, and if thou defeat those colossi, the idols shall fall. But heed this, the price you pay may be heavy indeed." Wander admits that it doesn't matter, and agrees to go through with the task of killing all 16 colossi that line the walls within the temple. Dorman then goes on to say that if you raise your sword in the sunlight, the path to the colossi will be revealed to you. Since this game has a huge open world map, this is effective in helping us know what direction to head in terms of what colossi we are supposed to face. Wander looks down at Mono one last time, and then we open up into gameplay and we can now control Wander. The first boss acts as a tutorial to reveal all the buttons and aspects of gameplay to you. So as you hop on Egro, it teaches you to jump, to use your sword, and find the right direction, as well as controlling Egro a bit, since he will be our main source of travel for the game. We come to a ruin area with lots of vines and broken down areas to teach us how to jump, climb, and shimmy around with Wander. Then we are to face our first Colossus, the Minotaur Valis. Now, The Colossi do not have names, but I will be referring to them as the fan names made up for them back in 2005, mainly because they just sound cool. The only valid names that we have for these creatures are 1, they get numbered by the order you fight them, and 2, the nicknames that developers gave them during design. So this is Colossus 1, Minotaur A, Valis. I will be introducing all 16 in that style and then using the fan name while talking about the fight. The first thing we see from Valis is his hoof, which is enormous, really setting the scene for how colossi these beings really are. Wander's entire body is about the size of the creature's thumb. As we approach, we are given a bit of a guide on how to defeat the Colossus. Dorman mentions that we can use our sword the same way as a guide to point out the vitals or weak points that we need to get to and hit on the Colossus. The tricky part of this game is not only getting to the weak points, but then also being able to charge up a stab while the Colossus moves around, sometimes even purposely attempting to throw you off of them or grab you. Imagine scaling the outside of Howl's Moving Castle. Pretty scary stuff. Thankfully, the Colossus are built to be fairly climbable, using both their fur and the ruin-like structures, or perhaps it could be called armor, to get to the biggest weak point, the head. On Valis, you must grab the fur on its legs and get up on the platform on its back. From there, you must jump up to its right arm, where the first weak point is. When a Colossus is punctured, a black smoke starts to spew out of the spot hit, very similar to the smoke figures that approached in the temple when we first arrived. Once the spot is significantly damaged, the sigil that lights up where the weak points are will disappear, and you will likely fall off or be tossed due to stamina restrictions, or Valis shaking its arm. But once it is complete, you can get back to the platform on its back and start to climb the fur on its back to reach the head. Once you've depleted the health bar, Valis will collapse, dead on the ground. The thick black tendrils will pour out of his head and then target and pierce through Wander's body. Ouch. He seemingly passes out, and the screen goes white while we are teleported back to the main temple. As the camera pans down, we see Wander lying on the ground, and one of the shadowy figures standing over him and staring. The camera shows Mono briefly, and when we return to Wander, we see he is starting to wake, but the shadow figure is now gone. Wander obviously goes to check on Mono, but our task is still incomplete. The temple starts to shake, and we see the statue that represented Valis start to crack and light pours out of it, until it ultimately explodes, stone pieces crumbling to the ground. Dorman speaks of the next colossi, saying, "In the seaside cave it moves slowly. Raise thy courage to defeat it." This is your hint on where you will be heading and what you will be fighting. When you leave the temple, the game will show you an altar and explain to you that if you find these around the world map, they will heal you and also save your game. The second Colossus is also very close. After crossing a short bridge to the east, there will be a cutscene that peers the camera down to the pit below you. You head down to find nothing there. It takes some searching, or to use your sword to guide you to a nearby wall where the Colossus bursts out of it. This one was nicknamed Mammoth by the devs and Taurus Major Quadratus by the fans. To fight this Colossus, you must shoot arrows into the soles of its feet. You can see the weak points shining as it walks around. When shot, its leg will go elbow down, giving you the opportunity to reach some of the fur on its leg and get up on the Colossus. It will get up and start walking around again, whether you are on it or not, so be quick. There's a weak point on its left side, its butt, and of course the top of its head. As mentioned before, all the Colossus have some sort of armor that acts as platforms for you to climb or rest on to build up your stamina. Once you have depleted Quadratus's health completely, it will begin to collapse and start turning black as if rotting, just as the previous one did. And once again, you will be attacked by the black smoky tendrils that escaped from the kill point. Once you are teleported back to the temple, we get the same scene from before. Wander unconscious on the ground, but now with two smoky figures standing above him and staring down at his body. These seem to represent the colossi that you have slain. We then see the statue across from the first one start to light up, crack, and eventually explode and crumble apart. As Wander wakes and stands, Dorman speaks once again. Thy next foe is a giant canopy soars to the heavens. The anger of the sleeping giant shatters the earth. As they say that, this pans to the statue of the Colossus we are next to face. I'll take a moment here to say that there are things to do in the overworld besides strictly just heading to the Colossus. You can collect fruit from trees and lizards to improve your stats. There are blue-tailed lizards at every small tower where there is an altar save point, and the fruit trees are scattered about. You do not have to kill the lizards, and you shouldn't because they are cute. You only need to eat their tails in order to improve your stamina. So if you use an arrow to shoot only the tail, the lizard will drop it and scurry away. The third Colossus is across the same bridge as the second one and up north. It's also worth noting now that if you revisit any area where you have slain a Colossus, you will be met with their sandy corpse and you can replay the battle. This is something that they added in the remaster, and it sort of acts like a time trial. After passing through a cavernous area, you get a cutscene introducing a small lake with a large platform in it, and the camera pans over to your way up. Once you make it with a little climbing, you will face Colossus 3, nicknamed just Knight by the devs, and Earth Knight Gaius by the fans. The big fellow is indeed sleeping when you find him, but you've strolled up into his home, so he gets up to face you. This battle is a little more tricky than the last two, and you can take quite a bit of time to figure it out. Or at least I did. You have to entice Gaius to smash his stone sword down on the platform in the middle of the area in order to break off a piece of his armor and make his arm climbable. After that, you must entice him once more to slam his sword into the dirt so it gets stuck for a moment and you can jump onto it and climb up his arm. There's a weak point on the belly, the left arm/elbow area, and as always on the top of the head. And we rinse and repeat the usual ending. Colossus collapses, gets overcome by the black smoke, and the tendrils pierce into Wander, turning him unconscious. We now have 3 shadow figures standing above Wander, staring at his unconscious body, and the corresponding statue then explodes. As Wander stands, Dorman introduces the next Colossus, saying, "In the land of the vast green fields, rows of guiding graves. It is giant indeed, but fearful it is not." Another clue to our next battle. We now head northwest into a valley area that leads into a cave, and as we enter, the camera pans to show us what looks like little hobbit homes, but no Colossus in sight, so we must go investigate. Reaching to the end of the field, we run into Colossus 4, Kirin, or Equus Prime Phaedra, a giraffe Colossus. Very neat design, and another more puzzling fight tactic needed here. The trick here is to hide long enough in the hobbit homes to get the Colossi to peek in looking for you. It is truly unafraid and simply curious. Really makes you question if this is right to end their lives. And another cool thing I will note here is that the eyes of the Colossus are normally blue when they first wake up, but once you start to aggravate them, annoy them, attack them, their eyes will turn yellow-orange color. So you can tell if they're feeling calm or feeling like they want to smash you into pieces. Once it peeks down, you can either jump out to grab the bits hanging from its jaw, or run to the other side of the hobbit house to jump onto the little tablet on its butt to get up onto the creature. There are weak points on its left shoulder and on the top of its head. We have something new here on this one as well. There's blue cracks that seem to be oozing red smoke on its neck. This is a type of weak point that forces the Colossus to do a certain action, and in this case it forces Phaedra to put its head down, in pain obviously, so you can get over the armor and to the weak point on its head. Once its health is drained, we repeat the same process as before, and awaken in the temple with 4 shadows now surrounding Wander. We're starting to see the pattern here. This time before Dorman speaks, Egro walks up to the altar to check on Mono, who is still, unfortunately, very dead, and Wander comes up to meet his steed with a soft touch to his head. It casts a colossal shadow across a misty lake. As it soars through the sky, to reach it is no easy task. Yep, we somehow have to get our little human onto a literal colossal bird. So let's go. We head west down a grassy path to the edge of a cliff and traverse towards a pond with a large structure. You have to swim under the gate to enter the lair of Colossus 5, dev named simply Bird, very creative, and fan named Delta Phoenix Avian. Or is it Avion? I'm not sure. Once you reach the top of the stairs, we pan up to see the creature flying through the skies and over the lake ahead. It's honestly beautiful. It perches unbothered on a stone pillar, and we are left to figure out how to get onto this thing. The trick is to stand on some nearby platforms in the water, shoot at it with your arrows to get its attention, and it will come flying down to you and give you the opportunity to jump onto its wings as it flies over. The weak points are at the tip of its tail and one at the end of each wing. Of course, this is incredibly difficult to hang on while the Colossus is flying, flapping, and doing whole loop-de-loops with you on its back. But once its health is depleted, we are greeted with a similar scene. Even being in the water will not protect you from the death tendrils. A giant lurks underneath the temple. It lusts for destruction, but a fool it is not. We are heading northeast to search for a temple. We have to progress through a dense forest to get to our destination, but there's actually a really fun Easter egg to find here. If you're able to find a little cavern under the mountainside, you can actually find some barrels from Team Ico's other game, The Last Guardian, which will be our next episode. This is, of course, in the remaster only because the original Shadow of the Colossus came out long before The Last Guardian did, but I was so happy to see this. It just made my little heart really, really happy, and it's just so cool for them to put an Easter egg of their own game into a remake. It's really cool. Once you find your way out of the forest, you'll find a tunnel that opens up to a sandy dune area. Follow your sword's glow to find the underground temple nearby, and within it is Colossus 6, Minotaur B, the Goliath, Barba. This is another fun puzzle-like battle, but first we have to run for our lives, because Barba is coming for us with no mercy, smashing everything in its wake. Soon you'll find a place to hide under, and this is the key to victory. If you stay hidden long enough, Barba will get curious about where you've gone, and lean down to look in the covered area. This is your chance to jump onto his beard. The weak points are at the top of his head, on his back, and on his left hand. Usually, it's easier to coax Barba to slam his fist down to reach this one, rather than to climb down the arm. Once the giant falls, we are once again stabbed by the tendrils and introduced to our next Colossus by Dorman in the temple. A rune hidden in the lake. A ripple of thunder lurks underwater. Oh yeah, it's underwater level time, baby. I would definitely recommend growing your stamina bar before this fight if you haven't already with some blue-tailed lizards, because we're going to be hanging on for dear life. We head east of the temple, cross a familiar bridge, and follow the longer bridge that led us here south. Eventually, you will find a large lake and your friendly neighborhood sea dragon, Hydrus, or Colossus number 7, Eel, waiting in its waters for you. This fight consists on you luring Hydrus to the surface so you can cling to the fur on its back before it dives back down. Don't ask me how you being in the water very close to this eel and its electricity is something that wouldn't end you immediately, because video game logic, I guess? At least it looks really freaking cool. Hydrus has only one main weak point on its head, but 3 one-shot weak points that power its electricity along its back, that you must simply work your way through after grabbing its tail and running up every time it surfaces. Once you are successful, you'll be met with the familiar cutscene and one more shadowy figure to watch over you. A tail trapped within a pail deep within the forest. A shadow that crawls on the walls. Remember how I told you that you don't have to kill the lizards? Well, this one you're gonna have to. Head north through several valleys and follow your sword's guide to find a little cave hidden in a mountainside. Here you will find a very pretty looking lake with a little temple in the center. That's where we need to go. Find your way inside to meet Colossus 8 Yomori B, which makes me think at some point in development there may have been another lizard-like Colossus. But I digress. Fan named Wall Shadow Kuromori. The trick here is to get Kuromori to attack, climbing the walls, and shoot at its glowing legs to get it to fall down onto its back. Then jump down, plunge your sword into it. There's 2 weak points on the belly. Rinse and repeat until defeated. After this kill, we get a couple flashes of Mono sitting up at the altar, seemingly alive and well, but it's just a vision because she is still unmoving in her place. Wander walks up to see her, and he strokes her face gently. Perhaps that will be a reality soon. The land where trees nary grow, it sleeps in a dry lake bed, a rude awakening. We head east out of the temple in search for the sandy dunes to encounter our next Colossus. After crossing a little bridge into an area with geysers, you'll have to hunt down the hiding spot of Colossus 9 Kame/Tortoise, fan named Storm Echo, Basaran. This is a fun fight because you must coax Basaran towards the geysers in order to tip it, and once it's thrown off balance, you must shoot the weak point under its feet, similar to the second Colossus. Climb the fur on its tummy to get onto its shell and make your way to its head where the only weak point will be waiting for you. Our little shadowy friends around us at the temple are starting to look like a whole dang party. Thy next foe is an isolated sand dune. Its tracks are well hidden, shaking the earth, its gaze upon thee. And we can tell by the statue that this is a snake, a sand snake. Arguably the most terrifying of all the Colossus just because of its mentioned gaze. We are heading east again, back out to the desert, following the sword's glow until it leads us to a cave entrance right next to an altar. A foreboding sign. Save point, right outside the boss. Inside, you will find Colossus 10, Narga, Sand Tiger Dirge. Not sure why the fan namer decided to go with tiger when it's a literal snake, but here we are. This Colossus will slink around in the sand until it decides to surface and chase you with its huge, beady eyes that you need to shoot while riding aggro, causing it to crash into the wall and give you an opportunity to plunge your sword into its two weak points, rinse and repeat until Dirge is defeated. Thy next foe is an altar overlooks the lake, a guardian set loose. It keeps the flames alive. Head south from the temple until you find a giant chasm and a zigzaggy path down into it. Down here you will find the lake and the altar that Dorman spoke of, and inside it, Leo, Colossus 11, Flame Guardian, Celosia. The irony of the fans calling this Colossus the Flame Guardian is that it's actually afraid of fire, and that's your trick to success. Push the little scaredy cat back and off the ledge so that the armor breaks off and exposes the weak point on its back. It will work tirelessly to shake you and run you off as it makes its way back up to the temple to protect its fire. Upon your success, you'll be met with the same scenes as usual. Paradise floats upon the lake. A silent being wields thunder. A moving bridge to cross to higher ground. A great hint for the next boss. Thanks, Dorman. Head south once again until you find a thick forest. Make your way through and around a mountainside trail. You must now climb your way around and into the large lake behind the waterfall to find Colossus 12, Poseidon, the great basilisk Pelagia. This one can be very tricky to figure out. First, jump into the water to climb up the creature's back, and then use the teeth-like things on its head to lead it towards the higher ground that Dorman mentioned. Hitting them with your sword will trigger a sort of reaction from it, probably pain, and force it to go in that direction. Wait until it rears up to look for you and exposes its stomach for you to jump to and attack its only weak point. Pelagia may also destroy the towers, so you will have to lead it to a different one to proceed. Once you are victorious, you are once again pierced by the shadow tendrils and teleported back to the temple. Seemingly. We get a new cutscene here instead. We see a foresty area and what looks like the temple in the distance, judging by the blue lights in the sky. If you've noticed in your adventure, every time you slay a Colossus, there's a blue light that pierces the cloudiness where the Colossus fell. We are then met with several people on horseback. All the riders in armor on black horses come to a stop and allow someone robed on a white horse to walk forward through them. They are all wearing strange masks, similar to the one we saw at the very beginning cutscene when it explained that this area was a no-go. We later find out that this person's name is Lord Amon. He mentions that they only have a little bit more ways to go, and the camera pans up to the temple. Seems like they are heading our way. Brought back to the temple as Wander, we see him lying with his little friend staring down at him, and whether Dorman knows that more people are coming this way or not, he doesn't miss a beat to introduce the next battle. Thy next foe is the vast desert lands. A giant trail drifts through the sky. Thou art not alone. Spooky. Regardless, though, we push through, heading north out the temple. Traverse through the forest here once again and follow your sword until it leads you to a very open and sandy area, and head to the ruined structure you see there to entice Colossus 13, Snake, Trail Drifter, Phalanx to emerge from the sand and take flight. Here you have another fight with Aggro as part of the team. You must shoot the sacks underneath Phalanx to cause it to lose altitude and give you a chance to charge and leap onto its wings. The 3 weak points are found under the flaps along its back. If Phalanx is planning to dive into the sand to get you off, the flaps will close and cover up the weak points, so you must shoot the sacks once again to get back up. Once you defeat it, we get pierced once again and knocked out before getting sent back to the temple. Only 3 Colossus left now. A guardian set loose, a closed-off city beyond the channel. It lusts for destruction. We head out east from the temple, then north, and journey quite far to find many ruins and a cave entrance leading to a body of water. Making our way through here will bring us to the city beyond and Colossus 14, Cerberus, Destruction Luster, Cenobia. The first half of this battle is literally just parkour. Wander must climb, jump, and aggro the beast into destroying pillars to open a path forward and through a wall. Once through the wall, there is another platform for us to stand on and lure Cenobia over. This final act of destruction will lead to its demise, as the falling debris breaks the armor off of its back and exposes its weak point, just like Colossus 11, the Flame Guardian. Once it is defeated, we are brought back to the temple. Thy next foe is... A giant has fallen into the valley. It acts as a sentry to a destroyed city. Head west once again, then down south, in search of another ruined city. And you can see the castle ruins from pretty far away. Find a way inside and meet Colossus 14 Minotaur C, the Sentinel Argus. Lots of players find this boss very frustrating because of what you must coax the Colossus to do requires precision, but as the second to last creature you must destroy, it makes sense that it would be a bit more difficult. Argus is absolutely massive in size. His introduction from Over the Edge is one of my favorites. Anyways, the goal here is to make Argus slam his foot down on a certain slab in order to help you reach the upper ledge. This is frustrating because if you get hit, and this Colossus has a massive AoE, you are unable to climb up before it moves its foot away, so it can take a couple attempts to actually get up. From this ledge, you must annoy Argus into slamming his sword down on you, breaking up the ruins and allowing a path to climb up even further. Once you finally reach the bridge that spans across the gap, Argus will smash this too, so be careful. You can use this to jump onto its head where the only fur is, and begin your search for the weak points. There is one, of course, on the top of the head, the chest, and in the palm of his hand. To get there, you must hit a weak point at the back of the right arm, similar to the Giraffe Colossus, Phaedra, which will cause Argus to drop the sword it has. Now, without the sword, Argus will slam its fist on the ground and allow you a moment to grab the fur there in the palm and attack. Once it goes down, we will get stabbed and brought back to the temple. Next is the final one! Dorman speaks. Finally, the last Colossus, as if they were the one doing all this work. The ritual is nearly over. Thy wish is nearly granted, but someone now stands to get in thy way. Make haste, for time is short. Seems like Dorman has realized those people are getting close to stop what Wander is doing. Ride north until you find the large doors in between some mountains and shine the light of your sword onto the sigil to allow the doors to open. Make your way through this new area until you reach a bridge you need to jump with Agro's help. Get a good running start and make the leap. The bridge will begin to crumble behind you, so Agro runs faster, and after another leap onto a weak slate, your friend realizes you both won't make it. In an incredibly loyal and selfless thrust, Agro bucks you forward so you roll onto sturdy ground, and we pan back to watch as our beloved steed falls down into the ravine. It starts to rain, echoing our emotions and pain, but we must continue forward and not let Agro's sacrifice be in vain. We must climb the rest of the way up, over rubble, grass walls, and tunnels to meet our final challenge, Colossus 16. Devs nicknamed Avis, and fan named Gran Gigas Malice. It's basically just a huge scary dude with a climbable dress, but we gotta get there first. You must hide and outrun Malice's shots that shake the earth, and sneak your way closer slowly, but surely. Once you emerge at its feet, the camera pans up to show you what you have in store, so get climbing. The first weak point is on its back. With the size of this thing, it probably feels like a mosquito bite when you stab it, so it reaches back to see what's on it, giving you the opportunity to jump to its hand and climb its armor to the next spot below the shoulder. This will cause it to reach over with its other hand, where you can then jump to that from here. And if you somehow get stable ground long enough, you have to shoot its shoulder with the glowing weak point, so then it'll reach that hand to the shoulder and allow you to jump there. Now you have access to the only real weak point at the top of its head. After a strenuous stamina struggle to defeat Malice, you are pierced by the shadow tendrils one last time for your efforts, and we promptly cut to the horse riders making their way across the long bridge before the temple. Lord Aemon and the soldiers enter, weapons ready, as they ascend down into the temple. They see that the statues have all been destroyed, and as one soldier calls out for Lord Aemon, the final statue lights up and begins to crack since we have just defeated the final Colossus. They despair and look over at the altar to see Mono lying there, still motionless. We flash back to the final Colossus and pan down to Wander, gray and seemingly lifeless on the ground, until he begins to float. Guess this is how he's been getting back to the temple all these times. Lord Aemon and the others are investigating Mono before Wander appears on the ground behind them, and the magical sword of his crashing down off to the side after him. The shadowy figures start to rise around him, and as he gets up, we see just how sickly he looks. Skin is colorless and cracked, with eyes now a piercing blue, similar to that of a non-hostile Colossus. And he now dons small horns on his head. Wander has been completely transformed. Lord Aemon speaks. I don't believe this, so it was you after all. Have you any idea what you've done? Not only did you steal the sword and trespass upon this cursed land, you used the forbidden spell as well. He motions the soldiers forward towards Wander and continues. To be reduced to such a sight, you were only being used. Wander looks weak, clutching at his stomach, and the soldiers raise their crossbows as Lord Aemon tells them to eradicate the source of the evil, and that Wander is now possessed by the dead. The archer fires and gets Wander in the leg, causing him to fall over, and he clutches the wound as it begins to bleed, but that soon turns into black smoke leaking from the shot. Lord Aemon says it is better to put him out of his misery than to exist, cursed as he is. A swordsman holds his weapon above Wander and goes to deliver the final blow. But as Wander is stabbed through the chest, black smoke erupts from the wound and he stands, reaching out for Mono, who is still unmoving on the altar, before pulling the sword straight out of his chest. Black smoke consumes his entire body, just as what happened to the Colossus we have killed, and he falls over once again. The soldiers begin to panic as the shadow consuming Wander grows bigger and bigger, growing spider-like legs out of his back and larger horns as well. We then hear the shadow body speak in a voice that may sound familiar to you. Thou severed our body into 16 segments for an eternity in order to seal away our power. We, Dorman, have arisen anew. We have borrowed the body of this warrior. We see the small shadowy figures run into the legs of Dorman, the lost fragments of him that we willingly broke the seal on, entering the new host body. Lord Aemon shouts to place a seal over the entire shrine before Dorman can escape. We are then left to control Dorman and attack the soldiers and Lord Aemon to stop them from sealing the temple, since this is our life now, I guess. The soldiers run and grab the sacred sword on their way out, and you cannot kill them, even if you try. They will make it to the exit, and surprisingly, your eyes are still blue and not yellow, as if enraged or threatened. Lord Aemon and the others race up the staircase and perform a sealing ritual with the sacred sword before exiting, throwing the weapon down into the small pond below. It lights up and creates a sort of wormhole as Lord Aemon takes his exit. The light begins sucking Dorman in with its force, and he struggles against it, shriveling up and being reduced to Wander's shadowy form. The game actually allows you to try and struggle against the force of the seal, but it will all be in vain as you cannot escape it. The light sucks you up and slowly dissipates. We see the others riding their horses out and back over the long bridge, and the seal breaks the first pillar to the temple, causing it to begin to crumble away. We pan back to Mono, lying peacefully, when suddenly her eyes open. The vision we saw previously was true. She looks around curiously, obviously unsure on where she is and why. She gets off the altar and walks down the steps to inspect her surroundings and is greeted by Agro! limping but alive. She pats the horse in greeting, happy to see another living soul around her, and then the credits begin to roll. We see the trail of destruction that we left behind, the corpse of every Colossus shown to us, before we are shown Lord Aemon and the soldiers, again, trying to outrun the collapsing bridge. Thankfully, they all make it safely. Not another aggro moment, it's okay. But how will Mono get out now? Lord Aemon comments on how no man shall ever trespass this place again, and risk the release of Dorman. He says, should you be alive, if it's even possible to continue to exist in these sealed lands, one day, perhaps you will make atonement for what you've done. Mono and Aggro slowly make their way towards what used to be the small pond, but it no longer has any water. When they get closer, they see an infant, with horns, naked and crying. This is assumed to be Wander, regressed in age and given another life to, as Lord Aemon said, atone for what he's done. Mono walks over and picks up the baby, her former lover or sibling, not knowing what he did and sacrificed to bring her back to life. Aggro proceeds to walk up the spiral staircase, probably thinking this is the way out, even though the bridge is out now, and Mono follows. Once they see the bridge is gone, they continue upwards to the top of the tower, where there is a beautiful meadow, strangely filled with wildlife, where a little baby deer approaches Mono, as well as a squirrel, birds, butterflies, and even the falcon from the beginning, to inspect her and baby Wander. We then pan away with the falcon as it flies, mirroring the opening. We see the sun shining and a beautiful, hopeful score plays over the credits. And as the falcon flies through a thick cloud, we open up to the full moon beyond and get a black screen that says, end. Oh man, this game is just quite the masterpiece. I absolutely love how they told so much story without really telling any story. We get so much information about the Colossus in a way that makes us feel sorry for them. At least I personally felt that way playing. With each Colossus that I went to, I felt more and more terrible about what I was doing. And I mean, we're just going into these Colossus homes and they're sleeping, they're just hanging out, they're not doing anything. And I think that really shows how, even though these Colossi were remnants of this pure evil, they still just had their own way of things. They still had their own lives that they were living. There's just so much heartbreak at the end of this game. Not me about to cry. There's so much heartbreak at the end of this game, thinking we lost Aggro, dying ourselves, not knowing if Mono will survive because she doesn't have a way out of the valley. There's just so much that I love about this game. I can't recommend you play it enough if you haven't already. I just absolutely love how this story was told. And there's still questions. Who is the infant? Some people do assume that it might be Aiko from Team Aiko's other game, The Small Child with Horns. I actually haven't played that one yet, but that is a good theory as well, because the story is kind of about a child who is cursed with horns, and he's outcast. So it's possible that that is Aiko as well. But for me, I like to believe it's Wander given a second life, a second chance. It is never explained to us what Mono and Wander are, if they're related, if they're lovers. It's never said, so it's just up to speculation, but I don't know, I'd like to think that they're lovers, and, you know, he just went above and beyond. Wander was willing to do absolutely anything for her, and, you know, it paid off. She's alive, but, you know, at what cost? So I absolutely love this game. Definitely recommend it. I'm not going to do ratings or anything on this podcast. It's literally just me here to tell you stories. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you really enjoyed the story and love it as much as I do. If you'd like to support me and the podcast at all, you can check out my Twitch, where I'll be playing all the games that I talk about here live. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you on the next episode. We'll be covering The Last Guardian, another Team Ico game and my favorite game of all time. So that one will be emotional. It'll be emotional, but a similar, really amazing story. Thank you so much for listening. I hope to see you next time and have a wonderful day. Bye.